All right, we are playing some historic best of 3 Simic Merfolk in the first couple of matches of the OTR historic meta. I don't really expect anything massive to change in historic with the release of the new set, but you never know what people are going to come up with. We are paired against GTAS 28. I think we have played against this person before. Oh, yes, we have a bunch of times. This is the ramp player, if they're on the same deck, that runs green, red, and it's actually pretty deadly against us. Seems like a reasonable start to try and get something with the Hex Catcher, so we'll see how this goes. The green-red ramp deck with Domri and more of a stompy theme as opposed to Karn has been actually kind of hard to beat. It has lots of ways to deal with my creatures and makes it a lot more difficult to deal with than the standard plan against green ramp that we just let them cast whatever they want and then sleep them to death. All right, with that Pelucranos on the board, do we hold up Hexcatcher or do we play a Pearl Trident here? I think it's Hexcatcher, and let's not take the damage. So we just pass the turn. We're not going to be able to counter anything legendary because of that deleted halfling, so I don't think we're going to get away with it here. Oh, it looks like he might not have the best hand. He's playing it safe with Pelucranos, not playing into us. We're going to play the breeding pool here and put out a Rege. That's going to give us some options to tap his blockers on future turns and start to get in. Cavalier, that's not terrible. If I was him, I would attack with Pelucranos here, but we'll see. Oh, he doesn't want to risk trading off. All right. So we've got another land there, but I don't think that extra Mutavault's going to be relevant. So we're going to turn it into a Trop here. And I think our best play is actually going to be to Glasspool Mimic the Rege. He doesn't have much for threats on the board. He's going to be able to transform that Pelucranos, but being able to tap down 2 threats is going to be quite relevant in the coming turns. Now let's see if he hit anything good on the draw. That seems pretty good. All right, he's got 3 mana available. I can start sacking things. Or he can hit the Hex Catcher and die. All right, we'll let Garruk resolve. We've got nothing small enough that he can transform. Yeah, so he has to use the Make a Wolf option, which does not allow him to transform. Let's see if he comes in with any of those creatures. No, he's just gonna let me do some tapping. All right, so we only need 2 blue mana up to tap down his 2 good blockers. So we're gonna tap down Pelucranos on that one. And then with this one, tap down the Cavalier and the Wolf. So if he wants to save Garruk on this turn, he is going to have to block with everybody. So he didn't have a great hand and scooped on game 1. So this one, we're a little more vulnerable. There's a lot of planeswalkers in this deck, so we have to draw pretty well. We're going to bring in both Revokers and the Tidebinder, and we're going to bring in the Mindsingers and Eaten by Piranhas. The Piranhas can be utility against the big creatures as well as keeping him off of mana ramp, but they aren't as effective as they are against other big ramps. I'm going to bring in the 2 sleeps as well. As much as it isn't a guaranteed plan like it is against some of the other ramp decks, it is still effective when he gets a lot of creatures out. So we're going to drop the 2 Silver Gills. They're not super relevant in the matchup. We're going to drop the Shorelines and 4 Pearl Tridents. The Regeries, as we saw in that game, let us tap things down, but the Pearl Tridents don't actually help that much. Kamena is going to act as evasion and some late game inevitability. Svelion's got to stay, so we've got to make a decision on 2 more cuts. I think the cuts here are either Shoreline Scouts or Tunnel Guides. That's getting pretty greedy with our mana base here. but I think we got to go for the 2 Shoreline Scouts and mulligan to decent lands to start. Guess you could make the argument to drop 2 Cocos as well because I brought out so many creatures, but it is one of the things that helps us play out from behind those planeswalkers if they start to get ahead. 2 Mutavault's not going to do it. We need some colored mana. 1 Botanical Sanctum also not going to do it. That land will do it, and only 3 drops. So we're going to keep this because I don't think we can afford to go to 4. We'll keep 1 Tishana's and 1 Svelian and hope we draw into some action earlier, or he's got another terrible hand. Well, the Tunnel Guide will be a reasonable turn 2 play, getting some value out of it. Defense Grid. Interesting. He really does not want us to cast Tishana's or Cocos on his turn. He's really into defending those planeswalkers. I haven't seen that tech before. Don't know if it just hasn't come up or if it is new. Well, that's a pretty nice draw. We're going to play a Rege, pump up that Tunnel Guide, or draw land. Do we want to keep a Glasspool Mimic for next turn? Not really. We want to try and draw into real lands here. And we will get into Kiora. Against the regular green ramp deck, I will often just attack, letting the Kiora live. Oh, he must have not had any more mana. Well, I'll take that as an easy win in a matchup that I have often lost. All right, playing some more Merfolk in historic best of 3. Playing Simic still on our deck with the Phyrexian Revokers in it. This is the first few games of the Outlaws of Thunder Junction meta. Haven't seen anything new out of the opponents yet, but hoping to see something novel in the next few games. All right, we've got a diamond player, Dante77. We're on the play, and we have not played against this person in the past. Well, this is an interesting hand. No hints as far as what they are playing with companions. We get our 2 drops out if we Glasspool Mimic into Breeding Pool, but it's a very slow start. If we hit a 3rd land here, though, we are off to the races. I don't think I would risk this if we were on the draw, because losing Glasspool Mimic through a Thoughtseize would be a disaster, but I think we're going to keep, and then hopefully we draw running lands for a little while. Let's see if the opponent will do us a favor and take a bunch of mulligans. Nope. All right. Glasspool first, get that tap land out there. Fabled Passage, so a landfall deck of some sort maybe. Let's just play a Breeding Pool. Leave a little bit of mystery here. We can always play a Trickster or a Hexcatcher on his turn. Not that having the Avatar and the Companion leave it really up to chance what deck I'm playing, but you never know what they're going to do. Into a basic forest off of that Fabled Passage. Wonder if this is a land recursion deck? All right, I'm going to play it safe here and just run a Trickster out, maybe into some removal. Hive of the Eye Tyrant is much more of a mid-range play. All right, so here we're going to take a Shoreline Scout. Knowing he has removal and is playing a little more mid-rangey, Regery has less value. It just tends to die 2 things. And we'll pass the turn. Play at instant speed at the end of his turn again, roll out another safe Trickster, or use a Hexcatcher to catch a spell if we can. Delighted Halfling. Interesting. Rampy. Maybe a... This is a Yawgmoth deck. It's off to a really bad start. Here, I'm going to play the Rege and go on the aggression plan. Might not be the safest play, which would probably have been Svelian or holding up Hexcatcher, but want to put some pressure on the board and make him take the lead. Interesting blue mana. So we're looking at Sultai. Sultai mid-range. Oh, a lands combo deck with Blossoming Tortoise. What did he just pull? Ren and Realmbreaker, Nissa, Vital Force. Interesting cards there. All right, let's see if we can draw a land off of this Cenote Scout. No, a Tunnel Guide. We're going to pitch that. Play another Tunnel Guide. Untap our land. And then we'll use the Hex Catcher to tap that Tortoise and see what we draw. What do we want to pump up? We'll just do the Trickster here. Excellent, just like we drew it up. Swing in for a bunch of damage, get him down to 3 and play the Boseiju so it's on the field for next turn. We're in pretty good shape unless we somehow hit a sweeper or he goes off with a combo through the Hex Catcher here. I feel like that's unlikely. Slogurk the Overslime, that is new. Oh, that's the landfall payoff. That seems a little slow. All right, happy to sacrifice a 1-drop here. So he's got 3 blockers, I've got 5 attackers. Yeah, that's game 1. Definitely on some sort of graveyard recursion landfall plan. We're going to bring in our unlicensed Hearse, Tishana's Tidebinder, to take away the activations and triggered abilities. With the Delighted Halfling, I think we bring in the Mindsingers as well. I don't think we're worried enough to bring in the Eaten by Piranhas or Phyrexian Revoker unless we see something a little stronger out of the combos. We want to focus on finishing the jankier decks early rather than stopping them from doing their thing. All right, what do we pull out here? We pull out the 2 Silver Gills. Doesn't look like we need card advantage, and I'll take out 3 Shorelines. Again, we should be able to make do on 4 lands here, and as long as we're aware, we can mulligan cleanly. This is a land recursion combo. This is actually the 3rd one I've come up against in the last 30 or so matches. I haven't heard of anything in the meta coming up that seems like that, so it might just be coincidence, but it's definitely interesting. All right, this seems like a fine start. Unless something changes, we're going to roll out that Glasspool Mimic, tapped on turn 1, and then Breeding Pool on turn 2. Lots of Tricksters. We don't necessarily want that many Tricksters, although it could be handy if he pulls out a turn 2 Mana Dork. Oh, we like that when players lead into an island. Nice. So Delighted Halfling gives us an excellent target on his turn. Put in a stop before we forget and pass. And let's tap that Mana Dork down. We're hoping here that his main plan was ramping and that this is going to stutter his turn. All right, going to his main phase, losing him a mana for the turn, putting him off tempo. There's Slogurk. All right, with that draw, we're going to steal the Mana Dork. We could bluff an attack, but I'm not going to count on this player skipping blocks against that Trickster to play around a Lord, so we'll just Mindsinger here. Borrow that Delighted Halfling off of him to ramp us next turn and pass. So I wonder if he has a lot of mill options. I know we saw the Tortoise last game. Fabled Passage is a pretty slow way to turn on Slogurk, so there has to be some other way. That was a very strange choice. Why did he use that option instead of... Interesting, okay. Oh, we got the extra land. So I was going to hold up Collected Company, but now we can tap down Slogurk on his turn. So we need to use this to cast the Rege, and then we're holding up Merfolk Trickster. We're going to tap down Slogurk and one of the lands, I think, on his turn. Oh, that's unexpected. All right. Rege back to our hand, and then in we come with these two, and I guess we just Trickster Slogurk at the beginning of his turn. Just don't want to risk the land triggers if we don't have to by letting him go to his main phase. We might even do that a couple of turns in a row. Here's that tortoise again. Might as well play that. We'll do the same plan. In comes the Reach. I would trade a Trickster with the tortoise if that's what he wants to do. I suspect he's going to want to stay. Oh, no, he is going to take the trade. All right, that's not bad. So start of his turn, we're going to tap a land and Merfolk Trickster Slogurk. Let's do the blue. It's the most vulnerable color. Does he have a counter spell or a way to bounce that Merfolk Trickster? Nope. All right, so now we've got 12 damage on board. And with that mana, let's take the risk out of our Mindsinger, and we will sacrifice the Delighted Halfling. That can go back to his graveyard. Unlicensed Hearse, I don't think we need here. We're just going to swing in. Well, do we? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. I think we collected company here and just hope to hit a Lord and then make our plan afterwards. Oh, and we get a scoop on the collected company. He didn't even want to see what we hit. All right, well, that's the second easy-ish game in a row. Can't complain too much, breaking into the high 200s. And we'll see what tomorrow holds.